Hello, everyone. My name is Joi Jackson, and today I'll be presenting my final project titled Racialized Moral Cognition in Schools: Implicit Bias, Whiteness, and Educator Responsibility. This presentation is grounded in social cognitive neuroscience, moral psychology, and critical race theory. I also bring in my perspective as a Black autistic educator who works directly with schools with high behavioral needs and building the systems that support students in my role as a transformative learning environment instructional specialist. We often think of moral judgment as deliberate and rational, but in reality, it's shaped by both implicit, automatic processes and explicit, conscious ones. In schools, this becomes especially evident in the relationships between educators and students, as well as in discipline data for diverse school populations. My research investigates how racial bias, particularly in spaces that consciously and unconsciously view whiteness as a dominant moral orientation, shape how educators interpret and respond to student behavior. Students of color, especially Black and brown boys, are often misread as morally suspect. So, in my research, I ask, how do automatic, implicit, and deliberative, explicit processes interact in racialized moral evaluations of students, particularly boys of color? In what ways does whiteness shape the moral ineligibility of people of color in said school environments? In my paper, I highlight the three brain regions involved in moral decision making. First, the amygdala, which is responsible for threat detection. It tends to activate more strongly when people view outgroup faces, especially Black faces, tied to negative stereotypes seen in media, i.e., a hoodie or a baseball cap. Second, the medial prefrontal cortex, or mPFC, plays a crucial role in helping us empathize and assign value to others. This area shows reduced activation when white educators observe Black students during conflict or when they're being reprimanded. Third, the temporoparietal junction, or TPJ, serves its function in helping us understand intent. Bias in this area means educators often misread frustration or anxiety in students of color as hostility. So the issue here isn't just interpersonal bias. It's how educators' brains are wired by racialized experiences to make sure students seem dangerous, less empathetic, or morally deviant. In the first study, Seeing Black: Race, Crime, and Visual Processing by Eberhardt et al., in this study, they found that Black male faces are more easily and automatically associated with crime and violence, even in neutral settings like classrooms. This has real consequences. Educators may unconsciously link a Black student's facial expressions or posture to aggression. This lowers their threshold for perceiving threat, which contributes to the over disciplining of Black boys for behaviors that wouldn't raise concerns in white peers. In the second study, a memory systems model of implicit social cognition by and Ratner, this study offers a theoretical model explaining how implicit associations are stored and activated through brain memory systems. These associations guide moral judgment that before deliberative and deliberate reasoning can even intervene. So, when an educator interprets a student's action as defiant or disrespectful, it may stem from a schema associating Blackness with threat, shaped over years and years and years of exposure to racialized narratives. This is an excellent example of cross level integration. Social constructs like race influence neural activity, which in turn affect daily classroom decisions, which in turn affect and shape neural activity, and so on, so forth. These neurological patterns don't exist in a vacuum. Studies by Giano et al. And Asiri and Bazaragan show that structural racism in schools, like unequal discipline or academic expectations, negatively impact students' mental health, increasing depression and even suicide risk among students of color. As educators, we must stop equating compliance with morality and shift away from such systems. This work includes using trauma informed, culturally sustaining practices, integrating anti bias training that targets internalized schemas, MTSS systems that don't disproportionately pathologize students of color, and family engagement models that view caregivers, especially Black mothers, as partners, not as problems. The key takeaway is that moral cognition is plastic. It can change. Studies have shown that empathy training, counter stereotypical exposure, and restorative practices can reshape the brain over time. Future research should investigate the long term effects of anti racist interventions on educator moral reasoning and discipline patterns. But we do not have to wait for perfect data to act. If schools are truly to be safe and equitable, they must become places of relational accountability, not punishment. That means unlearning white normative moral schemas and reimagining discipline as an opportunity for healing. Thank you so much for listening to my final project.